So hey guys, Ben Bailey here. The topic of the video, as you can see in the title, came from getting comments, emails, and most recently accompanying a friend of mine to a music shop to go and select their first guitar. Get some questions about like what you need to look out for. And being a guitarist for some time now, I've played for about 12 years. There are some things I just inherently understand about a guitar and I take for granted. And watching somebody go through that process of selecting a guitar, you realize there are things that you really do need to pay attention to. So I thought I'd make a quick video, answer those questions, hopefully help some of you guys make a more informed purchase. These are the top 5 things I look out for when I'm going into a shop and buying a guitar. This is obviously a little more geared towards acoustic guitar, because I assume if you need these tips about like things that you need to look out for, you're probably buying your first guitar, you're kind of getting into it, and if that's the case, you should definitely start off acoustic. So that's why I'm holding my acoustic, and I'm going to explain it in the context of an acoustic guitar. Number 1, the first thing we're going to do when we pick up a guitar or when we see a guitar, it's going to be like, wow, look at it top to bottom, woof, this looks cool, right? I would say the first thing you want to look out for is fit and finish. Make sure that all of the joints look sturdy. You don't have a guitar where the neck is rattling around in the pocket or where things aren't like screwed down properly. You can feel when something is properly attached or not, or if something feels like fragile or that it's going to break. Also look out for things like finishing issues. So if the finish seems inconsistent or there are rough spots, sharp spots, things that should have been sanded that weren't sanded, look out for things like that. Sloppy paint jobs as well, where things overlap where they're not meant to. If you look out for things like that and it passes that first test, well, at least there's been some sort of attention to detail on that instrument. So you can rest assured that someone's taken care when they've put it together. The second really important thing to look out for is the fretboard, the fret job, and the setup in that regard. So for those of you who don't know, the frets are these metal strips, metal wire that are embedded into the fretboard, and it is by pushing the string down on those frets that you produce a note. So that means the attention paid to putting the frets in is very important. A good first indicator as to whether or not the frets have been done well is the fret ends, so the edges of the fretboard right here. So what can happen is the frets can overhang slightly over the edge of the fretboard. The problem that causes is discomfort mainly. You're going to be either scratching your hand up as you play, or worse yet, you might accidentally cut your hand on the frets, which wouldn't be a nice experience. Quick test to do in the shop is you just run your fingers along the edges of the fretboard like that, with a reasonable amount of pressure as well, and make sure that you're not hurting your thumb, and make sure you're obviously not bleeding. If you know some chords, play those, but even if you don't, play notes up and down the neck on the fretboard. On different strings. The reason to do that is because sometimes the frets aren't installed properly, or the setup might be a little bit troublesome. Instead of your notes sounding like this, you might end up with your notes sounding like this. If you have any notes that buzz like that or fret out meaning the frets in front of it are so high they just stop the string from vibrating, that is definitely a no-no. That is you're not going to be able to play that guitar and have it sound any good. But if your frets are nice and flush and comfortable on the sides, nothing sticks out, and when you play notes up and down the fretboard, the notes don't buzz and they're nice and clear and clean, then you're all good to go. A third thing to look out for is tuning stability. Now, it's hard to check for tuning stability when you haven't been playing guitar long enough to identify when a guitar has gone out of tune. But in any case, if you make sure that the tuners, now just to explain, the tuners are these knobs on the headstock of the guitar, and it's by turning these, a set of gears is turned. These particular ones are open style, so you can see the gears. A gear is turned and the post winds the string around it. It's by doing that that we tune a guitar to pitch. We tension those strings to tune each string to a certain pitch. Obviously, you don't want this to change while you're playing necessarily, or change drastically at least. So you can always check by just making sure that these tuners, when you wiggle them, they don't wobble or rattle, And when you turn the tuner, it doesn't feel rough. It should feel smooth and should be reassuringly firm and sturdy. That's what I kind of look out for. If that's the case, and it seems to move in a nice, smooth fashion, and if you had to pluck the note and move the tuner, if it moves in a smooth fashion like that, then you're probably good to go, and the guitar is most likely going to stay in tune. It's not really a huge issue, because if you don't mind spending a couple of extra bucks, you can replace tuners if they are a problem. Now, I tend to look at those first 3 points as being pretty objective, in that they're kind of truths no matter what your opinion is, you know. A well-made guitar is going to be well connected at the neck joint, for example. It's not going to wobble around. But the next 2 points, to me, are much more subjective. So this is stuff you look out for depending on your taste. So point 4 is the feel of the guitar. It should be something that you're comfortable with, whether it's got a wide neck or a thin neck. Maybe you want it to be shallow but very wide, or you want it to be thin but deep. You know, it can be either of those things as long as it's comfortable with your hand. The body too. If the body is too deep and you're uncomfortable leaning over it, or it's too big for you, or it's too small for you, or it cuts into your ribs, or you want it to be a little more contoured, this is all to do with your taste. At the end of the day, you want to enjoy playing guitar. Music is meant to be an enjoyable experience. So just pick something that makes you feel comfortable, that you feel isn't going to fatigue your hand after too long. If you've got smaller hands, consider going for a smaller neck. And the 5th point is sound. You can have 2 extremely well-made guitars, but one of them might sound very warm, dark, if you will, kind of lacking some of those higher frequencies. And one might sound really bright and clear and cutting. There isn't one of those mindsets that's necessarily right. It is all to do with your taste. And it's also to do with the piece or the context of your song or your playing or whatnot. I've definitely heard guitars that I find are really bright and really clear, and I love them for those qualities. And then I've heard guitars that are very warm sounding and dark and lack those frequencies, and I like them for that reason. So there isn't necessarily like a right or wrong in this. It's totally up to what you think. If you're still interested in the do's and don'ts of sound, I think the one thing you want to look out for is look out for guitars that don't resonate. You definitely want to pick a guitar, especially in the acoustic realm, where when you play that chord, you feel it resonate against your body, and that you can feel the neck vibrating. It generally means that you've got good joints everywhere, and good joints mean better transfer of energy. So those were the 5 things that I'd really look out for. A bonus point here would be to really take your time when you're picking your guitar. Don't feel rushed by anybody, especially not the people in the shop, and don't feel intimidated by anybody else that's in the shop. I know how it feels to feel intimidated by other people's playing. You'll walk in and there might be someone that really knows how to play their guitar, but they were just like you at some point as well. They were at that point where they were starting out. There is no shame in playing absolute nonsense on the guitar, just trying to discern whether or not it is good. Play those chromatic notes. Play every note on the fretboard if you want, to make sure everything sounds good. And I think you'll find you've made a much better decision in the long run. A bonus point is pick whatever the hell you're happy with. Don't feel like it needs to be a certain brand. Don't feel that it needs to be a certain price. You'll find good guitars at pretty much every price point. It is about finding that one that really works with you. I play a lot of big stages to a lot of big crowds, and I still walked into my local guitar shop and picked out this guitar. Now, this is a Yamaha Storia. This is their new series that, for all intents and purposes, is actually aimed at getting new players into the guitar. Now, I've been playing long enough that I'm not really considered a new player, but when I picked it up and I heard the sound and I looked at, you know, this kind of minimalistic look they've got going on, it really resonated with me, and I went, this is the one, this is the guitar. And it's not a crazy expensive guitar. And I'll be playing on stage with a $300 guitar next to my mate with his $3,000 guitar, and I'm enjoying every minute of it. So I hope that this video has helped. Obviously, these are all kind of just opinions of mine, and what I've found in my experience. Everybody's experience is limited, but all I hope is that I've helped someone out there walk out of the guitar shop with a guitar that they're much happier with, because they've got the confidence to say, these are the reasons I got this guitar. So happy shopping, happy guitar playing, and I'll see you soon.